I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice coming at you.
Brought to you by Open Studio.
That's right, openstudio.com. No, not openstudio.com. Openstudio Network.
You're the CEO of the company.
Whatever. Google Open Studio if you're interested. What's going on?
Oh, nothing, man. We're deep into recording these You'll Hear It's for this week, and wanted to add a list of our 7 favorite jazz guitarists, because I don't think we've ever covered this. We're on like episode, what is this, 1,552 or something by now?
Yeah, well, we're pianists, and we hate guitar, of course. Why would we cover it?
It's interesting because I feel like guitar is a interesting jazz instrument, right?
Yeah.
Like, guitarists are the king of every other kind of popular music.
Right.
But in but in the jazz world, they're kind of like, under the radar.
That's right. Well, and I think, I'm just kidding. We don't hate guitarists. I think what it is as pianists, we're actually envious of guitarists in a lot of ways. Yeah. We occupy some of the same space, but really some of my happiest musical moments in reflecting and us looking at this list, I realized was from listening to and playing with great guitarists.
Yeah, absolutely. They've really helped shape the music.
And I mean, if you think about it, like piano and guitar are really in many ways the most similar instruments within the jazz world to each other, in that they're probably the only instruments that can really do a solo gig, solo performance. And look, Sonny Rollins' solo saxophone, I'm sure, was amazing at the museum in New York and everything. So, I mean, if you're at the top of the game, but I mean, if you're just an average pianist or guitarist, you can really do a nice gig on your own and kind of course, it's better with the rhythm section and horns or vocals, but I mean, you can sort of do that. I think, is there anything else besides piano and guitar that can kind of hold it down? Well, the bass, we learned that in yesterday's episode. Yeah, the classy Christmas, but
not as much. I mean, obviously, like, the B3 organ, but that's kind of an offshoot of any kind of keys instrument can do it.
Yep.
I love doing duo gigs with guitarists too.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, when you get the right guitarist and the right pianist, there's nothing like it. I think it gets a lot of bad rap because it's done badly a lot, because there's so much potential to clash. There's so much coverage of the same area. But I mean, the instruments are so different texturally, that, you just have to listen really well, which is number one. Listen. Yeah. And then you can have an incredible time with guitar and piano.
Yeah, I enjoy that quite a bit. Yeah. All right, so what do we got for number 1 here?
Well, number 1, we're going back to the source, back to the roots. Charlie Christian. Yeah. Obviously not the first jazz guitarist, but really, could we say he's the Louis Armstrong of the guitar?
He is the original innovator of the electric guitar, for sure. I mean, not just for jazz guitar, but of the entire genre of electric guitar.
Yeah, because I think one thing that's unique about guitar in the jazz world, certainly coming out of blues and then kind of running a parallel and also often crisscrossing path between jazz and blues, the guitar became such an important instrument, as you said, rock and roll, R&B, all these different, folk and different things. They certainly had their own influences besides jazz and blues, but big influences from jazz and blues and big influences on those later popular forms of music coming out of particularly the guitar as a frontline instrument.
Yeah, innovative stuff with Benny Goodman Sextet back in the day. Yeah. That was just an innovative group.
It was.
For the time.
And politically groundbreaking.
Totally.
Politically, he like the Jackie Robinson of jazz in a lot of ways, in terms of being on network television and the things that Benny Goodman's group did as an integrated band.
And he really was the star soloist of that, which was kind of the first time that it happened with the guitar.
Right.
It was usually, reserved to the rhythm instrument if it was in the band at all.
Right.
But this, because he was able to get that sound, that electric sound, and turn up, he was able to be the star soloist.
Yeah, and he could do both the rhythm and the soloing. And then I think you even heard, you hear about a lot of, rock and R&B guitar icons later on. Like, if there's one jazz guitarist they'll reference, it's usually they're talking about the blues guitarists, which are great too, of course. Yeah. But like Charlie Christian's name will come up, like from the Stones guys and Eric Clapton and stuff. He was really known as an innovator and an originator on the instrument.
So number 2, we have the great Herbie Ellis.
Yes.
Most well known from the Oscar Peterson trio.
Yep.
The ability to replace, in some cases, a drummer.
Yep.
Is pretty awesome power that the guitar has. But Herb Ellis, also great soloist, like groovy solos.
Yep.
Really nice contrast to Oscar's playing.
Yeah.
Like very melodic, but a lot of blues in there, a lot of groove happening. and just felt really good when that trio kicked it into like some high swinging stuff. He could be as intense as almost any drummer for that kind of swinging, four on the floor kind of stuff, man.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Herbie Ellis, long career.
Long career.
Yep. Great. Number 3, we have Grant Green, St. Louis's own Grant Green.
Probably my favorite.
Yeah, me too. I love everybody on here, and I don't know if you noticed as you were just talking, I added some more because we had some glaring omissions. And this is going to make you think of other people. I mean, wow, it's like an endless well.
Yeah, there's a ton.
But I think Grant Green, not just because of his St. Louis connection, but such a groovy player, such a swinging player,
Yep.
There's no reason to even compare him to another instrument, but it's always interesting if it's almost like, Art Blakey or something of the guitar, and that like can just, feel so good and can play, certain styles in a way that you think that he invented them, like a shuffle, boogaloo, the swing. Just Grant Green, just a master. And what a melodic guitarist. We talk about rhythm and soloing and stuff, but just a great melodiist. Is that a word?
That is a word.
I'm throwing some words out there.
One of the more grooving musicians ever. I was actually listening on the way in this record, Feeling the Spirit.
Oh, yeah.
Herbie Hancock, Billy Higgins. They're doing a bunch of spirituals, and man, does that feel great.
Yep.
Check that out.
Good for the soul and good for the afterlife. We got number 4. This is how deep this list is. Number 4 is Wes Montgomery. So it's like...
It's no slouch right there.
That's right. Now, Wes is kind of... I think in terms of timeline, I guess he's occupying the same kind of space as Grant Green, a similar age maybe, but there's some overlap in their styles, and certainly like the understanding of the groove and stuff. I always think of Wes as look, Wes can play any different groove as well, but really just in terms of straight ahead swinging in that, the recordings he did with like the Wynton Kelly trio and the live stuff, live at the half note and stuff, that. Like, he almost has the perfect kind of feel and swing for Wynton Kelly and Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, Philly Joe Jones, like that kind of a feel of which so much, later playing for guitarists and rhythm section emanated afterwards. And he really integrated with the rhythm section in a way that was like really, I think, set the tone for a lot of post-bop. I hate using that term, but I'm using it because I don't know what else to say. Can we call it, because PB, let's call it PB.
That's even worse to me.
But, in terms of, he was a guitarist that really slid into that space with just ease and grace and style.
That's great.
Yeah.
So for number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to go a little more modern here with a Western Missouri kid named Pat Metheny.
That's right. Out of the Kansas City area. Right?
Yeah, out of the Kansas City area. Certainly one of the more original, not just guitarists, but jazz musicians ever.
Yes.
Really developed his own sound from a young age, and one of the, talk about melodic, one of the most melodic jazz players ever. Great composer.
Yeah.
Extraordinary musician.
Yeah.
In all regards.
Well, and I'm glad that you, because the list I was looking, you had a gentleman named Pat Matheny listed.
Oh.
And so I didn't know, but I'm glad you decided to go with Pat Metheny. Is Pat Matheny a good guitarist as well?
No. He plays on the corner here at Olive and Grand.
Nice guy, though.
Nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Metheny is somebody that I heard when I was real young, some great recordings. Actually, him and his brother, Mike Metheny, who's a trumpet player. But, when I was listening to...
St. Louis Cardinals ex-manager, Mike Metheny? No.
yeah, maybe. Isn't wasn't it Mike Metheny? Pat's brother?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. But, Pat, the Pat Metheny group with Lyle Mays, going back to that, like that really... not only his playing, obviously guitarists just geeked out on his playing, but what he did with that group and leading that group. And I know Lyle was obviously, everybody, the whole band was a big part of it, but Metheny was always so forward thinking, with his orchestron project where he was triggering all these acoustic instruments, but
incredible.
Yeah.
And even some of the recent stuff, the stuff he did with Brad Meldau Trio, amazing, really great stuff.
Yep. Okay, so now we're going to get into an area where we would be at number 6, and I'm starting to get nervous, and this is when I started adding some people.
Yeah, we have 10 on here now.
Okay, so I'm going to go with one of my favorite players and favorite people and good friend, Mark Whitfield.
That's a good call.
Mark Whitfield, young guitarist. Well, young. If we're young, he's young. So, are we young?
No,
young in spirit. So, Mark is somebody I met, in the early '90s in New York. He was really on the Young Lions, young Cubs scene, and not the Chicago Cubs, hate them. But, Mark is just like one of the most astute technicians, definitely coming out of the. Oh man, now I'm going to mention people we got to add on. George Benson. How do we not have him on this list?
Does he count?
Yeah, oh my gosh. So, oh boy, yeah, okay. So
no, we should do more of a. We should do a whole like groove guitarist, smooth guitarist.
But
thing.
George was and is a great jazz
know,
guitarist.
he's a straight ahead
He just
two-player
isn't
too.
documented doing that a whole lot.
Yeah.
There's a Lou Donaldson record with some incredible George Benson playing, a couple
right.
of them. But anyway, Mark Whitfield really was very influenced by actually that era of George Benson playing, and then certainly Wes Montgomery, Charlie Chris. I mean, all these.
Yeah.
He really come out of the jazz stuff, but Mark really knew a lot of different styles, a lot of the funk stuff, and he's actually, I don't know if you know this little fun fact about Mark Whitfield. He appears on several tracks on the original D'Angelo Brown Sugar album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Mark
Nice,
Whitfield.
man. Well, so that our number 7 here appears on several tracks on the D'Angelo Voodoo album.
That's right.
Charlie
Yeah.
Hunter.
Yeah. Apparently, D'Angelo is a connoisseur of great young New
Jazz
York
guitarists.
jazz guitarists.
Yeah. No, Charlie Hunter, if you haven't heard his music, it's amazing. And I'll put a caveat on it. Like, a lot of people think it's amazing because he plays bass and guitar at the same time.
Right.
He has a specially designed guitar that has the 2 bottom strings are bass strings and the 4 top strings are guitar strings.
Yeah.
And he can do them both, and it's so funky and grooving, and he can solo and sound great. But even if that wasn't the case, even if it was just guitarist, he's really just one of the crazy smartest musicians you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Incredible musician, super groove.
Smart guy.
Smart guy. Genius kind of level of intellect. And
Weird, but
weird,
I'm
but
just kidding.
genius. No, but his whole concept, he's got 2 amps on either side of the stage. One is where the bass comes out, one is where the guitar comes out.
Yeah.
And he's playing both, and it's an amazing experience, especially live. He tours a lot, and if you ever get a chance to see the Charlie Hunter group, no matter what he's doing,
Yeah, solo, the group,
Go see
duo,
it.
man, he's bad cat.
totally.
Okay, great. Now we're going to get into the Uncharted add-ons. I don't even want to say add-ons. I mean,
We should do, this is 10 now. We're going to say this.
Okay,
is
this is 10.
our
Good.
10. Yeah.
So next is our dear friend, the great Romero Lubambo.
Amazing.
Yeah. Really, top of the charts for Brazilian. Well, we're always talking about how are we going to categorize him because he is not a bossa nova guitarist.
No.
He's not a samba guitarist. He's a Brazilian guitarist in that he's from Brazil, but his his understanding and abilities to play a wide variety of styles, it kind of typecasts him in a weird way to say he's only a Brazilian. So I like to call him a Brazilian jazz guitarist.
I think that's
actually.
what he is. He's a
Yeah.
Brazilian, jazz guitarist. Yeah.
But it's interesting about Romero. Like his whole thing, like he wanted to come to the States to play rock and roll guitar and blues.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, that's American music and jazz. All 3 of those. I mean, jazz kind of started to sort of take off as he got deeper into it.
Yeah.
But he talks about being really young and like hearing that American sound, and it's so interesting to me because we always think about the American musicians and guitarists wanting that Brazilian sound and going down there. And we always forget like what we create, especially for the guitar. It's such a unique thing that attracted all these great guitarists to come to New York, to come to LA, to come to the States, to be a part of the sound and to be influenced by our great tradition.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I mean, he's an incredible blues player. Really just shows you don't have to be from Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama to play blues. Doesn't hurt though.
What's really amazing
hot down
about Romero is the finger style.
Yes.
I mean, he's probably one of the best jazz guitarists in the world at the finger style.
Yeah.
Nylon string. It is unbelievable
Yeah.
what he can do and the sound he gets.
Yep.
Check him out.
Yep.
Number 9, we have the great Peter Bernstein.
Oh yeah, I love him.
I mean, this guy is as good as a jazz musician as you can get.
well, he's like the 9th best jazz guitarist ever. Apparently, the
I mean,
way we've
no, this list isn't based on best at all.
of course not.
But when I think of Peter Bernstein, I think of the trio with Bill Stewart
yeah.
and
Larry Goldings.
Larry Goldings,
Yep. Oh, AKA Hans Greuner.
Hans Greuner.
Big shout out to Hans from
man.
Austria.
Larry Goldings is an amazing pianist and keyboardist, but Peter Bernstein, Larry Goldings, Bill Stewart, that trio is incredible.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Bernstein is just like, I mean, he has a cult-like following among a particular style of, people that want to play like Peter Bernstein, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And, he's certainly, I would say Herb Ellis is probably his biggest influence, I guess. But, Wes Montgomery, Benson, he knows all that Benson jazz stuff really well. He's like a real kind of guitar historian, jazz historian too. And just one of the nicest, smartest guys from a really interesting family. He grew up in a teeny little village. I don't know if you knew about this in New York called the Upper West Side. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he grew up like in the 80s, and he would talk about like he rarely went up to the 90s or
in
the
1980s
70s.
or the
Well, he both. Yeah, he grew up in the 80s. But I mean, he's such a New York. I remember the first time we were on the road, or we were on the road for a while, but we were in Bermuda doing a gig, and we were going to like, a big thing to go around on the island. Best way to get around is on a scooter, you know, so we were going to all rent scooters, and we were in there. It was like Brian Blade and Josh Redman, Chris Thomas, Paul Booth. Big shout out to Booth. And Bernstein was like, cool. He's like, I've never ridden one of these. And we were all like, I think I had, and maybe Blade had, but not everyone. But they're like, oh, you can kind of figure it out. And then we're like about to rent them. And he almost wasn't able to because he didn't have a driver's license.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, you don't know how to drive? He's like, no, not really.
I never thought I'd leave Manhattan.
Yeah. He's like, can't really drive in New York. You got to be 30 to get your license.
Man, that is the best part about visiting New York or living in New York is the native, like, 4th, 5th, 6th generation New Yorkers that like,
Yeah.
there's nothing west of the Hudson River.
That's right.
And there's nothing east of Queens.
That's right.
You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
That's great.
No, he talked about, remember, I think he said he moved from like the 80s. I don't know if his parents were in the 80s or the 90s, you know, on the west side. And then he moved to like the 70s. And he was like, whoa. You know, he kind of like laughed. He was like, love you guys. See you Thanksgiving.
Oh my God. Yeah, he moved to the next town over, the
That's
70s.
Right. That's right.
So rounding our list, number 10 is a great guitarist based in San Diego, California named Peter Sprague.
That's right.
Open studio artist.
We got a little self-serving with the open studio arts, but you know what? These are great players.
Man, Sprague is slept on. Sprague can play.
This is kind of a nice little sleeper addition that we throw in for folks that, because he's one, like if you're a guitar, you know, fairly into guitar, you're going to know him. But I mean, you could easily know all the other 9 we listed and never even heard of Peter Sprague.
But he's awesome.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
And on the West Coast, what's so cool about him and still about the West Coast scene, it's still kind of separate out there. You know, they're 3 hours behind with the time.
Yeah.
You know, they're about 30 years behind on the style. No, I'm
So
just
they're
kidding.
surfing at the beach.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Peter Sprague is an incredible surfer.
There you
He
go.
lives 2 blocks from the beach in Southern California.
Well, he's a jazz musician in Southern California that also surfs. So he
Yeah.
has my dream life. Is
exactly.
What you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So have we talked about our rating and review system? How
Why would we do that?
well we're lowering the bar due to a general summer malaise. that
No,
has
we're not lowering
settled
the bar.
over.
We still want 7 to 10 stars. if
I
you've got it.
don't care. I want 5. I don't even want 5. I will settle for 5.
Dude,
5 at the most.
are you feeling all right?
Yeah. Please leave us a rating review at iTunes.
Yeah. Go to you'llhear.com to ask us a question or just pop in and say hi. You can leave us a voicemail. We still have our mailing list text thing we can go on. What is it? 445-279.
Don't be throwing it out there if we don't know the number, man. Come on, man.
Oh, it's 444-2222.
No. It is not that.
What is it?
It's maybe. Is it 4 and 2? It's probably 44222.
44222.
It's only 5 digits.
That's what it is. 44222.
Sure?
I'm sure. Text you'll hear it to 44222.
Yeah.
And
In the US.
In the US. And you'll join our Monday mailing list where we kind of mail out what's going to happen each week.
Yep.
And also give you occasionally some other tips and stuff like that. And
Yeah. It's one of the friendly mailing lists. It's not like the ones that hijack your JavaScript and take over your computer. Although we could try that. That'd be fun.
that would be an experiment.
We don't know how to do that, though.
No,
so,
no.
yeah.
All right. Well, until next time.
You'll hear it.